Have you ever found yourself waiting for someone in an empty stairwell? Your phone dies and you're stuck listening to the deafening silence. Having to avert your eyes from the fluorescent lighting, you look down the long, spiraling stairwell. Something feels off, but you can't quite describe it. Or maybe you've gone for a walk at night, a little later than you should. Streetlights reflect on the damp pavement on a lengthy dark road. Round the corner is your old school. Jumping over the fence, you go to sit down at a swing, looking at the plastic playground. You recall the loud murmur of children's voices and bright sunlight peeking out from behind the trees. But now it's cold, dark, and dead quiet. A strong, weird feeling creeps up on you, just by being in the space that you're in. These kind of spaces are called liminal spaces. The Latin limina translates into threshold, so these spaces are not quite fully spaces, but on the verge of them. We develop contextual relationships to the places we reside in. So when we find ourselves in places that only exist as a transitional space between one place and the next, our brain fails to recognize it, and it induces a feeling of discomfort. Places like parking lots, hallways, elevators, stairwells, sunsets, sunrises, airports, hospitals, gas stations, grocery stores, and waiting rooms. This also happens when the places we usually reside in exist outside of their context. Anything empty, abandoned, restricted, untimely, disintegrating, or differently lit. Or simply by just being awake when you're not supposed to be. You feel like you're not supposed to be there because your brain does not possess the proper context anymore. It feels like we're entering into an altered reality. In cinema and television, these spaces appear all the time. The images conjure the feelings you get when you visit the liminal spaces yourself, which immerses you in the moment. It can also visually represent a psychological liminal space, a moment in a protagonist's life where they either are in between two spaces or somewhere surrealistically non-contextual. The Shining is just one long string of liminal spaces, representing Jack Nicholson's characters in between job, at a place where you're only supposed to visit, and in a time where everybody else has left. Other well-known movies that use this are Ex Machina, Girl Interrupted, and Silence of the Lambs. Adolescence is also a psychological liminal space because it's somewhere in between childhood and adulthood. James Franco's book of independent short stories capture a lot of the dark, intense, and raw feelings of teenhood, which is what Gia focused on when adapting them into one linear screenplay. Because Franco focused on capturing the book's mood, it's natural that he was drawn to Gia Coppola as a director-writer to bring the specific aesthetic to life. He even worked another acting job to be able to bring it to life financially. It's been one of my favorite movies since I was 15 because it feels so raw and real, and it gives you time to take in the spaces and the people in them, as well as it being so freaking beautiful. I think the ample use of liminal space adds another depth and a unique look to the movie. A lot of great teen movies also utilize these locations, making it a staple in the genre. There is something to be said about how the use of liminal space could be coincidence, or at least on a more subconscious level than a conscious one. In a classic story arc, the protagonist is thrust into the unknown, so in a way all stories are liminal. Locations which are empty are also cheaper and easier to film in. Sometimes the plot necessitates the locations too. But I still believe in the magic of using liminal spaces. The effects they have are close to supernatural because we feel like we're in an altered reality. I think it could be a powerful tool if you would allow them time to have an effect and even become part of your story.